anything about the case or the situation, and when I got home, I realized I did.
Okay. So you are aware of this case.
Yeah.
Tell us first how you became aware about information involving this case.
When I turned on the news and saw it, I realized that it was the same thing.
The same thing as a case that you had learned about before?
Well, the names and the situation.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So when you turned on the news, you realized that the case you had filled out a questionnaire for was the same case that the news was talking about. So when you saw the news coverage, did you see the story?
No, because they said not to listen to anything, so I turned it off.
Okay, all right. So as you stand here today, based on what little you may or may not have heard, have you formed or expressed any opinions as to the guilt or innocence of the defendant in this case?
No.
You also indicated that you or someone that you know has experienced sexual harassment in the workplace.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
It was me, and it was somebody that I worked with, and I had to report him.
You did report him?
Yeah, I talked to him first, and it didn't stop, so I reported it to our office.
Okay. Was it resolved after you reported it?
For a while, and then it started back, but he quit.
He quit, okay. Was this an individual that you had to work closely with, or just someone that was there in the office?
I didn't see him every day, probably twice a week.
And was this someone that maybe initially you had befriended or considered a friend, or was this someone who just completely decided to...
Considered a friend.
You did consider a friend. And at some point, things progressed to the extent where you felt as though you were being harassed.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit more information about when and how that happened.
Well, I knew he had a flirtatious personality, but never towards me. And all of a sudden, it started towards me.
Okay. And when it did start towards you, I know you ultimately reported it, but what, if anything, did you do in that instance?
First couple of times, I just laughed it off. And when it kept going, I told him that I didn't like it. And he stopped for about a week, and then I said, I'm really tired of this. And he stopped for a week, and it started back, and then I reported it. And our human resources person talked to him.
Okay. If you're selected to serve as a juror on this case, and if by chance you happen to hear information that relates to the workplace and potential sexual harassment, would your situation cloud your ability to listen to the evidence, or would you be able to set your personal experience aside and listen to the evidence and base whatever verdict you may reach upon the evidence only?
Based on the evidence.
Okay. Now, the other thing that you told us is that you know someone or close friend or family member who is a person who suffers with mental illness. Can you tell us a little bit about that? First, tell us who it is and the type of disorder they may have.
My daughter is ADHD with a mood disorder, and my brother was psychotic. I can't think of it.
What kind of behaviors did he display?
Mood disorder and panic attacks and similar to bipolar.
Okay. And you actually did mention your daughter in the questionnaire. I think you also indicated that you are the sole caretaker of her. Is that correct? And your son. If you're selected to serve as a juror on this case, what impact, if any, will that have on your ability to care for your daughter and son?
Nobody else cares for them, and a lot of the times I work from home because she is an online at-home student, so I have to help her at home too, because she had a problem in the public school system. So my boss lets me work from home when she's having problems with her issues.
Okay. How old is she?
17.
17. So is she out of school for the summer
Yes.
right now?
Mm-hmm.
So she's not taking classes as we speak?
Mm-mm.
All right. So if you were selected to serve as a juror on this case, obviously you wouldn't have to be there to sit with her while she's taking classes because she's not taking any right now.
Mm.
Do you know when her classes resume?
Both of them August 12th.
August 12th.
Oh, now I remember. My brother was diagnosed
Schizophrenic. Okay. All right. I wanted to ask you also, you mentioned in your questionnaire about your father,
Mm-hmm.
and that you assist with his transportation.
If it's raining or overcast or dark and he has to go somewhere, I have to drive him because he has a problem with vision when it's not bright outside.
If you're selected to serve as a juror on this case, would you be able to make other arrangements for someone else to drive him, or is it something that you have to do?
I might be able to make arrangements.
Okay. You also said that both you and your parents, and you have friends and families members who have been divorced. Is that correct? In any of those situations, did the divorce get, say, ugly?
One of my friends, yeah. Mine was okay.
It was okay. You all were able to resolve it.
Mm-hmm. And it was handled by Judge Adams.
Oh, okay. Anything about the fact that Judge Adams handled your divorce that would be weighing on your mind if you were selected to serve as a juror on this case?
No.
Okay. And your friend, is it something that you, I guess, have personal knowledge about? Were you there with her during the divorce?
No.
Did you have go to support her at the house while she was going through the divorce? Anything that would have allowed you to be, I guess, personally acquainted with what was going on?
No, only just from what she told us.
Okay. You also indicated that your former husband had been arrested for DUI.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? And you had some feelings about the case and the way it was handled. Can you tell us about that, please?
Well, he kept having to go back to court because the call came in from a police from Clarkston and DeKalb County, and when he went to court, apparently the two officers had told him two different things. One had offered him to let him call somebody to pick him up, but when he went to court, because the two officers were disputing, the judge just kept asking for evidence and recordings, and it just seemed messy.
Okay. And in your answer, you said you believe the case should have been dropped due to the police statements conflicting, right? Have you ever you've served on a criminal jury before, correct?
Yes.
And without telling us what the verdict was, did you have an opportunity to hear witnesses testify in that case?
Yes.
Okay, and so you understand the nature of a criminal proceeding and the way a trial goes, correct? Mm-hmm. If you had to listen to evidence, and let's just say the evidence conflicted in some way, would the fact that you believed your husband's case, your former ex-husband's case, should have been dismissed because of conflicting testimony, if you were to hear evidence that was not necessarily the same from two different witnesses, how, if at all, would that impact your ability to serve as a juror?
It will be hard to decide which way to go.
Okay. Would it be something that you could work through, or the fact that there's a conflict, you just could not get beyond that?
I guess it would have to be something besides those two witnesses
Okay. All right.
that would make the decision.
Okay. So you could listen and actually, I guess, try and resolve any conflict yourself based on other information you might be given.
Yeah.
All right. And I mentioned the fact that you had served as a prior juror in a criminal case. Anything about that experience that still stays with you and kind of sits in your mind and make you not want to be a juror in another case?
No, it ended up fine.
Okay. You also made a comment in your questionnaire that you believe cases are won or lost on how good the lawyer is and not based on the actual crime. Let's talk a little bit about that, okay? Are you talking specifically about any one case, or are you talking about the criminal justice system in general? Give us an idea of what you meant when you wrote that answer.
I guess because there can be evidence that's not admitted based on one lawyer or the other one objecting to it, and if one lawyer is better than the other and they could bring out more information, then the lawyers are doing more of the work to me.
Okay.
So I guess it's what they can actually present.
And how does that affect your ability to listen to the evidence as a juror if you feel like maybe because this lawyer isn't as good as the other lawyer, there's information that you're not being given?
Just have to go on what you hear.
Okay, all right. So you could base your verdict, whichever way it would be, solely on the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You said you don't believe in the death penalty. You understand that that's not an issue in this case. Okay. So would you have any problem at all serving as a juror if you were selected to sit in this case?
My only problem would be the time that we would have to be here, how late, or with me being the only parent at home.
Well, as Judge Adams told you earlier, if you're looking, let's just say, a time period of 2 to 3 weeks, okay? And generally a regular business day from 9 to 5:30-ish. Is that something you could swing if you were selected?
I guess so. I'd probably have to get some help in some of the evenings.
Okay. And when you say in some of the evenings, if you were to leave here by 5 or 5:30, would that present a problem, or?
Well, my daughter works in the evenings, and usually she has to be there at 4:30 or 5, so my boss lets me be at home to get her to work.
All right. Would you be able to get someone else to drive her, or are you her sole means of transportation?
So means, because there's no bus service where I live, and we tried the taxi, and they said that was too far for them.
Okay. And let's see, she's 17, so she doesn't drive. Okay.
Because of issues. She couldn't get a license.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I prefer with prosecutors.
Oh, you may. Yes, sir.
No questions, Judge.
Thank you. Mayor from the state.
Your Honor, by agreement between the state and defense, we have agreed to let juror number 11.
You can send to the hardship, Your Honor.
Based on her hardship.
proceed. This is juror number 13.
Juror number 13, I see that you have had a bad experience with law enforcement, and in fact, I'm quoting from your questionnaire, you said the prosecutor was a liar.
Not here. This, I've never, it was in Texas before I even knew this person.
Okay,
So it's not nothing I've experienced firsthand.
okay. Can you tell me a little bit about that situation?
It was a death penalty case in Texas, and the prosecuting attorney at the time, for the research I did on that, they didn't have any DNA evidence that this person actually committed the crime, and the state of Texas killed him anyway,
Okay,
without any physical evidence at all.
all right. No physical evidence at all.
Yes, sir.
All right. You said the research that you did on it. Let's start there. In what capacity did you do research on this case? Were you hired? Were you just interested as a citizen, or were you this case personal to you?
It was personal to me since one of my best friends, her friend, is the one that they killed on death row. So she was actually giving me all the information about which the research that she's done, and a little bit that I did was the same thing that she did. So she probably did much deeper than I did.
And what type of research were you
Just
doing?
old newspapers that she came across online, and about the same thing that her friend, going by what her friend was telling her.
Have you had occasion to research any other criminal cases?
No.
Was there anything about what happened in Texas and your experience or your feelings about the Texas case or the prosecutor in Texas that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No, sir.
You also have in quotation marks as well that you do not trust the system.
Yes.
All right, so when you say the system, were you referring to the criminal justice system?
I mean, I was still stuck in a Zimmerman trial. I do apologize, but
No, we're looking for your honest opinion,
yes, sir.
nothing to apologize
I do
for.
believe the system does work, but it sometimes seems unfair.
When you say sometimes it seems unfair, is there any particular example that you can give me?
For example, what seems unfair to me is when you, like the case I was telling you about, my friend's friend that was killed on death row in Texas. To me, it seemed unfair from what I understand, his case seemed very unfair because his attorney, his prosecuting attorney, his defending attorney didn't do much to assist him. The prosecuting attorney had lied about a lot of things. So
Okay,
nothing against you or anyone, but I'm just saying.
I understand. I have another quote that I wrote down. It's something to the effect of, the system only works if you're white. Is that your statement?
I almost think that's the wrong trial right there.
Okay, and that's fine. You know, no judgment. But what I need to ask you is that the defendant is Caucasian, is white in this case. Is there anything about that, about her race, that would keep you from sitting as a juror, listening to the evidence, listening to the witnesses, and making a decision based on the evidence and what you hear from the witness stand?
Also, is there anything that would...
Is there anything about her being white that would prevent you
No.
from being a fair and impartial juror?
No.
Okay. You also indicated that you have had experience, or someone close to you has had an experience with sexual harassment. All right. Was that you personally or someone else?
It was my sister.
Okay. Can you tell us about what you know about that situation?
The only thing I know, I'm not really close with her, but she's in the Navy, and someone, I guess she had her hair like in the way she had her hair fixed at the time, the guy stuck his finger in and said something highly inappropriate to her. So she just went to her officer that was higher than her and reported it, and I believe that I think he got in trouble for it. But that was it. But I mean, as far as her feelings and everything, she was angry, but she didn't really discuss much with me about the whole situation. And that was it. It was handled like it should have been.
So I understand you to say that that she disclosed it or reported it immediately.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she did.
And I understand you also to say that it was handled, meaning that the Navy took care of it immediately.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you know of any discipline that the that the person that stuck his finger in her hair and made those comments got?
I think he was demoted. I do believe he was demoted, but after, I didn't really follow up on that one.
Did she being your sister, ever tell you or indicate that she received any type of backlash or mistreatment in the Navy for reporting sexual harassment?
No, sir.
All right. I'm looking at question number 54. And you have she, and then quote, allegedly had an affair with him. I don't know if that's true. Tell me where you learned that she allegedly had an affair with him, and I assume you're talking about Hemi Newman, correct?
I guess that's his name.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they said a long time when the case first started. I mean, a long time ago. And because I never did file the case, so I don't know what happened with that. That's why I said allegedly.
Okay.
Because it's alleged, but I don't know.
Okay. And when
I
you
never followed this case at all.
and when you said that's what they said, are you talking about what you heard on the news?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Have you heard anything about this case since then? What you just told us about?
No, because actually earlier last week I saw her name on the AJC.com. They mentioned her name, but I didn't go into the article. I was like, I just went on to something else. I didn't read the article at all. I wasn't interested in the article.
Is there anything about this case that you know of so far? Understanding that you don't know much, but anything that you may have heard about in the media or on the news that would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No, I don't watch the news. The city pressing.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Juror number 13, is it fair to say that you have a healthy degree of skepticism towards what you see in the media?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and could you elaborate on that and tell us why it is you have that skepticism?
Okay, I'll give you a prime example.
Sure.
The church I go to is the Birth Missionary Baptist Church, and with the accusations that went out against my pastor, I just did not find any of those to be true, but the media flipped it as if it was. So I don't really believe what they say in the media.
Okay, and that would have been with Bishop Long, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Bishop Eddie Long.
Did you know any of the individuals who were making the accusations?
Not directly, no.
Okay.
Indirectly, yes.
Okay. But you heard one picture in the media and you knew something from your own observations and personal interactions with folks. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In describing your opinion in this case, as Mr. James said you heard that they allegedly had an affair and you put allegedly in quotes. Any particular reason why you put that word in quotes?
Because it's the media. The media, I believe that they will tell you they will tell you the story the way they want you to perceive it. And so I just really don't believe much the media says. I just don't.
Do you believe that the media on occasion sensationalizes situations?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Big time.
Okay. Now, how much of the previous trial in this case with Mr. Newman did you watch?
Negative zero. Not at all.
Okay. I know there was both print coverage and TV coverage and probably radio as well. Primarily, where would your knowledge have come from for you to have gained previous knowledge about this case?
When you're flipping through channels, a couple of years ago, Channel News had something on about it, and I just saw that little part and I just flipped it. That's why I said allegedly, because I don't really know. I didn't really watch the news. I just remember saying that.
Did you familiarize yourself with the cast of characters who were involved in the previous trial?
No.
Okay. I noticed on your questionnaire, in response to the question about specifically using the name Hemi Newman, you had written, "Who is Hemi Newman?" Does that indicate you did not know that individual's name?
Right.
Okay. And did you recall any of the other testimony or roles of the other people involved in the trial?
No, sir.
Okay. Could you tell us who were the prosecutors in that previous case or the defense attorneys in the previous case?
No.
Okay. So is it fair to say that as you sit here today, or stand here today actually, you are pretty much perfectly impartial between one side and the other.
Yes, sir.
You would decide the case based on what you heard in this courtroom and on nothing else.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you did mention something about possibly having issues with taking your son to get medication, but I guess you said that could be rescheduled?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that is not present itself as a conflict, is that correct? First 48. How often do you watch that particular TV show?
Every once in a while.
Okay.
I try not to, because I may end up watching it all day. I don't watch it that often.
Okay.
I watched it maybe 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay.
I don't even remember what happened on there.
It is my understanding that in the past, there have been episodes on that particular show that focused on cases out of DeKalb County. Do you recall ever having seen any of those cases that focused on a situation out of DeKalb County?
No, sir.
Okay. As far as you know, had you ever received any sort of footage on that show of a court proceeding in DeKalb County?
No, sir.
Your first cousin was the victim of a homicide. How long ago was that?
89.
89?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You would have been much younger at that time. Are you really 48, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess you would have been 25-ish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or 24 times to 25.
Okay. Were you living in the same location where that occurred?
No, sir. I was here and he's in New Orleans.
Okay. And so you did not actually attend any sort of court proceeding relative to that case. Is that a fair statement?
They didn't have it.
Nobody ever caught?
The police knew who it was because the witnesses would not come forward. The case just dropped
Okay.
and
Presumably folks were intimidated for
Yes.
whatever reason.
they were.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let me go back to the subject that Mr. James talked to you about your belief that there is some sort of, I guess, a different system for white folks and a different system for black folks.
It's
Understandable. Obviously, do you think that applies in DeKalb County?
I've never seen it in DeKalb County. No.
Do you think, would it be fair to say that you would like the system to work for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. You believe right now the system works for white people, but not necessarily for black people. Is that correct?
In Texas, but not in. I've not experienced that in Georgia. No, sir.
Okay.
Only in Texas.
That is something you believe probably is more likely to occur perhaps in Texas. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You did watch, I guess, some of the Zimmerman court proceedings on Nancy Grace or shows of her ilk. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you think your opinions as to the inequality in treatment of members of different races in the court system in other jurisdictions would affect your ability at all to be a fair and impartial juror if you were selected to sit in this case?
No, sir.
Okay. Obviously, Mrs. Sneiderman is Caucasian.
Yes.
Would you be able to decide this case based on the facts and the facts alone and leave aside any issue of race?
Yes, sir.
You work on a TV ministry production company. Is that out of New Birth?
Yeah, I work. That's my volunteer. I volunteer as a camera person inside the church when we have service.
Okay. How you do that? How often?
Whenever they schedule me, every once in a while, I might go for prayer service or it's whatever they call me, and it's not that often.
Okay. And are services at New Birth still telecast on local channels?
Local, I'm not certain.
Okay,
I know
but
they're on the Word Network.
okay.
I don't think it's local anymore.
I don't believe I have any other questions. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you follow the instructions of the clerk. Snake,
Qualified, Your Honor.
Vance,
I agree, Your Honor.
all right. Should be next. you can just stand right there. Thank you. Mr. James?
Yes, sir. Ma'am, I understand that you had an experience with law enforcement, something involving a disorderly house? Okay, can you tell us a little bit about that?
It was my birthday, and we was wrapping things up, and had turned the music off, and some officers came to my house, and they started asking everybody for their ID and stuff like that, and got real, so they locked like 3 people up, but when we went to court, they dismissed it.
Okay. So if I ask you if you were satisfied how that case was resolved, I presume your answer would be yes. Okay. Did you feel that you were treated fairly by, let's start with by the police in that case?
A little bit.
A little bit? You can be honest.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little
Not
bit?
really.
Not really? Okay. How about when you got to court, did you deal with the prosecutor's office? Was it city court, or was it in DeKalb County, in
Yeah,
this courthouse?
here in this
Okay.
courthouse.
Okay. Did you deal with the prosecutor? Or
It never did got it.
you never got that far? Okay. I also see you indicated that either you or someone close to you has had to deal with a divorce.
Yeah,
Who is that?
my mom.
Your mom? Okay. Are you familiar with that situation?
Not really, I was young.
Okay. Mom never talked to you about it? Okay. Is there any reason whatsoever that you can think of that you would not be able to sit as a fair and impartial juror in this case? All right. And when I'm going through the questionnaire, I see also that you really haven't seen any media coverage about this case.
I haven't had cable TV in my house within a year.
Yeah.
I don't think it knew.
Yes, ma'am. I understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just a few follow-up questions. Juror number 14. You grew up in Madison? Okay. And your children, did they grow up in DeKalb, or did they grow up in Morgan County as well?
They grew up in Fulton.
Oh, in Fulton? And did they grow up in the home with you? And where was your last employment? What did you do before?
I was working at Cracker Barrel in
Okay.
Madison, Georgia.
In Madison? And how long ago has that been, ma'am?
It's been about 2 years.
In 2 or 3 years. And then you moved over to the Atlanta area? You weren't commuting from here to Morgan County? You were not commuting from here to
Oh, no. I
Madison?
stay in the
Okay, and your son lives with you as well? Okay. And you said you knew something about this case. Was that from television, radio, internet?
people talking about it.
Just people talking about it? But you have no opinion one way or the other on the case? Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Follow the instructions of the clerk. Make a mistake.
Qualified, Your Honor.
Defense.
No objection, Your Honor.
15 to be next. Mr. James?
Yes, sir. I understand that you've not seen any media coverage about this case? Okay. I also understand that a family member of yours went to jail for a crime involving a child or a little kid. Is that correct? All right. Do you feel like he or she was treated fairly?
Well, he did.
He did it? Okay. Was that here in DeKalb County? Buffalo, New York. Is there any reason you can think of at all that you would not be able to sit as a fair and impartial juror in this case? No. Thank you.
Mr. Peter?
You currently work for DOC? Okay. Department of Corrections, with a particular probation department, or are you at a central office?
No, I'm at Tiff College in Fort St. Georgia,
Okay. And how long have you been with them?
since 2005.
Okay. And if I read, that sort of got a little weak in the Xerox in here, it looks like you are involved in the administrative end, not in any kind of law enforcement capacity with arrest powers or anything like that. Okay. Have you ever been involved with DOC in any other capacity from the one you've told us about in your written questioning? Okay. Just a moment, please, ma'am. The question, have you or any friend, and by friends I guess I mean close friends or relatives, ever been in any law enforcement capacity? You answered yes to that. Is there anybody other than yourself who's been connected either administratively or with arrest powers in law enforcement?
No.
Okay. And if I read your answers correct on the questions about publicity with this case, you have not seen, to your recollection, any publicity in this case that would affect your ability to serve as a juror. Is that correct?
Not at all.
Okay. And having come to court and actually seen some of the actual people involved in it, your answer still is you could be fair to both sides in this case?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. If you just follow the instructions of the clerk. Any objection from the state?
No objection, Judge.
No from the defense.
Qualified. Which stand to be next?
Your Honor, for waiting 60 nights, is 18 still absent? Do we know?
Let me double, I'll confirm.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hello. You may proceed.
Juror number 16, you're in college now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what year?
I will be a sophomore.
Okay. And when do your classes start?
Kennesaw starts classes on Saturdays, so it'll be August 17th.
And do you know what the policy is about missing classes for jury service?
Not particularly for jury service, although I do know the attendance policy.
Okay, let us know what the attendance policy is.
If you miss 3 classes, you are dropped a letter grade.
If you miss 3 classes, you're dropped a letter grade.
Yes. In that particular class, not 3 total.
How many classes do you have in a week? Do you have a class? In other words, let me restate the question. Do you have a class that meets 2 days a week?
It depends on the class.
Okay.
I'm taking six classes that meet 2 days a week and 1 class that meets 1 day a week.
Okay. So you're taking 6 classes that meet
2 days a week.
2 days a week and 1 class.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. How would it affect you if this case went into the latter part of August and you missed, say, 2 weeks of class?
Well, I think it definitely would affect me, and then I would say later on in the semester I had to miss because I was sick or another reason, I wouldn't be able to. Also, I would miss a lot of instruction, especially in the classes that the 1 class that I have only 1 day a week.
Yes.
It's a 2-hour and 45-minute class, and I've had 3 classes like that in the past, and it's really hard to afford to miss those, just because there's so much instruction in 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Can you tell us about your transportation capabilities?
Yes,
All right.
or lack thereof, actually. I do not drive and I do not own a car.
Okay. So how do you get to school?
I live on campus,
Okay.
and to come back to Decatur, where I work, on weekends, I take the bus, the Cobb County Transit bus in
Yes.
Florida.
Is that something that you could do during the week?
Yes, I guess conceivably. Although the trip is, it takes about an hour. The commute is an hour at least, if not longer. And it would mean perhaps missing more classes than I would otherwise.
Okay. In the questionnaire, it says, do you have any religious, moral, or ethical convictions that would affect your ability to pass judgment on the defendant? Your response was, I do not know. I think it would depend on the situation. Can you enlighten us?
I guess I don't have a religious affiliation. I think they would affect it, but I guess it would just depend on the situation as to what ethics I would choose.
Let me ask you this question. There is going to be a trial, and if you're selected as a juror, you have to sit and listen to evidence and make a decision based on the evidence that you hear, based on the testimony and any other evidence that's presented to you. Do you think that you could set aside any moral, ethical, personal, religious feelings or beliefs and do that?
Yes.
Okay. And so when I read this question and it says, do you have any religious, moral, ethical convictions that would affect your ability to pass judgment on the defendant?
Mm-hmm.
Is your response, yes, I can, or no, I cannot?
I guess my response would be, I have no convictions that would influence that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
So you can render a verdict based
Yes.
on the facts and the
Yes, sir.
evidence? All right. I also see that you have someone that is close to you that was involved in a divorce.
Yes.
Okay, and who is this?
My best friend.
Your best friend.
Yes.
Was it a contentious divorce, or do you know enough about it?
Somewhat. I mean, my memory of that divorce was really from her point of view, simply because we were both kids and it emotionally affected her.
Okay. I'm looking at question number 62, where it asks you, do you know or have you heard of the judge in this case or any of the lawyers, so forth and so on. And you say, I have not heard of this judge or these lawyers, and you have an arrow, and maybe it's nothing, but I have to
Yes.
ask the question. You have an arrow, and it appears to be pointing specifically to my name and to the name of Kelly Stevens Hill, who also is with the DA's office.
I didn't mean it specifically. It was just a blanket.
Just a blanket.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So are you familiar with the lawyers who do not have arrows by their names?
No, I'm not familiar with any of the lawyers involved.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Clay?
Yes, sir, thank you. Juror number 16, let me just make sure I understand. You only get so many excused absences during the course of the semester.
Yes.
Okay, and how many is it?
You get 3, and then that's it.
Okay, and can you have an excused I guess these are unexcused absences. Can you have an excused absence?
Yes.
And is jury service an excused absence?
I'm not altogether sure.
Okay, so it is possible that if you have a civic duty or obligation to sit on a jury, the school will not punish you as a result.
It's possible, although I guess what I miss in instruction might not be punished, but will sort of punish me in a sense.
Okay. Do you think if you were to sit on this jury, it would affect your ability? Would you be worrying about your missed schoolwork?
Yes.
Okay. Would that affect your ability to focus and listen to what is going on this trial, if you were selected?
To some degree, I think so, definitely. I have to move all my stuff up to Kennesaw. I'm sort of preoccupied with getting all that completed. I'm also currently participating in an internship for college credit, and I do have some things that I'd like to finish up before I go back to school.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Please follow the instructions of the clerk. State.
Your Honor, I would move for the withdrawal for cause based on hardship. She's a young woman in college. She would have to take the bus here. I presume that would require her to get up very early. She'd also have to miss college classes, and we're not exactly sure if those absences are going to be excused. If they're not excused, obviously it's going to drop her a letter grade in the class based on what she articulated. Even if they are excused, however, at the beginning of the school year, it's going to push her back a considerable amount in terms of her instruction. I think she also said that she'd be...
Excuse me. Oh, 1 second. Just hold 1 second.
that she would be somewhat distracted as well. And based on the aforementioned reasons, I would ask that she be excused.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I believe Mr. James has succinctly and cogently stated a basis for hardship, and we would not oppose the motion.
All right, lawyers, I will concur. Here we go. You can bring in next, the 17 will be next. Louis?
Juror 17. I am going to ask you first about the situation you alerted us to about your financial situation if you were on a jury of this length. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Just that it's going to be like 3-4 weeks, and that'll be financially difficult, but...
Okay. And you said you get 3 paid days for jury service.
Yes.
Did you use one of those days today?
It's Friday.
Friday. Okay. All right. If for some reason, or if because you were selected on this jury, you were absent from work for this purpose to be here with us for 3 weeks approximately, how much of a financial impact would that have on you and your family?
It'd be significant, but I mean, I could do it.
You could do it? Okay. You also let us know that you had heard some press about this case or something in the media about this case since Friday when you came to fill out your questionnaire.
On the radio.
On the radio?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what specifically you heard?
It's 106.7. They just go over all the news bulletins. So.
Okay. Is there anything that you heard since you filled out your questionnaire on Friday that causes you to have an opinion about the case?
No.
Okay. Did you have an opinion about the case before?
No.
Okay. But you had heard about the case?
I heard.
Okay. And explain if you heard about the case but you don't have an opinion, is that because you don't have enough information or you just...
I didn't have enough information to formulate an opinion.
Okay. All right. The questionnaire asked you a general question about the criminal justice system, and your answer was that you didn't believe that it was fair. Can you tell me about your feelings about that?
Just overall, but I mean, nothing like isolated or anything, but just that, our justice system, it's been evolving, but it's improving.
Okay. Is your opinion particular to DeKalb County or any experience you or a friend might have had in DeKalb County, or is that kind of your feeling in general?
No, just in general.
In general, okay. Is there any particular case that has led you to that conclusion or that gave you that impression?
No, just the trajectory
Just-
of the entire justice system.
Okay. All right. Your brother was involved in a situation.
Yes.
Was that here in DeKalb County or was that somewhere else?
Fulton.
In Fulton, okay. Do you know about how long ago that was?
2 years ago.
Okay. And was your brother, he was a police officer?
Yes.
Okay. Did you follow that case very closely?
No.
Did you go to any of the court hearings or anything like that? Do you have an opinion about how or if your brother was treated fairly in that situation?
No, I didn't attend any hearings or anything. So
Okay. Does he have an opinion about whether he was treated fairly in that situation?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Is there anything about that that situation that would lead you to feel one way or the other about sitting as a juror in a criminal case?
No.
Okay. Is this the same brother who was in the Army?
No.
Okay, it's a different brother.
Different brother.
Okay. What's that brother doing now? Is that brother still in the Army?
Yes, he is.
Okay. And that's his career? How long has he been in?
Right. He actually just finished school, so he'll be a second lieutenant in Korea this winter.
Okay. All right. You have a child who is elementary school age?
Yes, he's not.
And what school is that child in?
LPA, Leadership Preparatory Academy.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand the abbreviation. Okay. When you were a victim of a crime, or the situation you relayed in the questionnaire about being a victim of a crime, or someone who you know had been a victim of a crime, and you were unsatisfied with the police response?
Yeah, I've been a victim of a crime.
That was you? Okay. Can you tell me about that?
My car was burglarized twice, stolen once. No police came out.
They didn't come out? Okay. Was that here in DeKalb County?
Yes, they took a report over the phone, but I mean, I think it's just standard procedures.
All right. So based on what you told me, there was no arrest in the case?
There was an arrest and a conviction.
Okay. Did you ever have to participate in the justice system? Anybody, did you come to court as a result of that?
No, we didn't have to go to court or anything.
Okay. Did somebody call and let you know then that that's what happened?
Via letter.
I'm sorry?
We got a letter from the,
Okay.
I guess it's the DA's office, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, let me ask you first about your experience with the police in that case. You said they didn't come out. Did you have any contact with police in that instance other than they took the report over the phone?
When it was burglarized, no. When the car was actually stolen, we met them because the perpetrator used my car.
Okay.
While I was on the phone with the bank.
Okay.
So,
And what did you think about your involvement with police in that? Were they helpful? Was it somewhat not completely overwhelmingly helpful? Okay. And what about in the situation where there was an arrest and then a conviction with your contact with the district attorney's office, which is a letter, was, did you feel that was satisfactory?
no, I was surprised with that, yeah.
You were surprised you got it? Okay.
It was helpful to know at least.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything about any of those situations that you think would weigh on you one way or the other if you were a juror in a criminal case?
No.
So anything I didn't ask you about that that you think would impact your ability to be a fair and impartial juror in the case?
I don't think so.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Just a few follow-up questions. Juror number 17. Your brother, was he convicted of violation of oath, or
Yes, he was.
and was that in a jury trial, or did he plead?
I didn't attend any hearings. I'm not positive on that.
Okay, so you're not very close to him.
He's my half-brother, but no, we weren't living together at the time.
Okay. And so he shared nothing with you about the circumstances of that?
Correct. I found out through my mom.
Okay. In the questionnaire, you also say you shared custody with your 9-year-old son, is that right? Okay. What is your role in that shared custody arrangement?
We live together. We're not married, but we live together and we share custody.
Okay, so you're not sharing custody with someone outside the home?
Correct.
All right. So you and your girlfriend share the responsibilities of child care together?
Yes.
Okay. And your involvement in the jury duty in this case would not have any effect on how y'all arrange the child care then?
No, it shouldn't. She's a school teacher, but I mean, it should.
Okay. And again, you're a technician specialist with Canon.
Correct.
All right. And even though you would lose potentially a significant amount of pay over a period of time, that will not impact you to the effect that would deter you from serving on this jury. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Just kind of move the podium back a little bit. I'm having a hard time seeing.
Yes, sir, you may. You can move. That one, let me move.
Okay.
Self-confidence. Please follow the instructions, please. Thank you. Bill number 17. Yes, Lord, you can move that. What's the state's position?
No objection to this jury, Your Honor.
Nothing?
No objection.
All right, he's qualified.
Your Honor, before the next juror.
He's not available. Number 18, he'll be back tomorrow.
Your Honor, in fact, we have an agreement about juror 18. We don't need to bring him back. By agreement of the parties, he has a pending medical condition.
That is correct, Your Honor. He knows the witness and has a pending medical condition, so
We
unless the
will.
court just wants to bring him.
I understand. We'll make a note of that.
Thank you.
I have no objection to that procedure. So, she has a couple of questions for you.
Yes. Juror 19. You raised your hand about a potential hardship or a conflict with jury service. Can you tell me about that?
I am my children's primary care person. Their daycare is over at 6, so I have to be able to pick them up by 6.
Okay. And you've got an 8-year-old and 2 5-year-olds? Okay. The judge has let everyone know that we expect the courtroom proceedings to end at 5 o'clock, approximately 5 o'clock every day. If that were the situation, would that address your concern?
As long as I could be able to pick up, I have to go 2 different places to pick the kids up.
Okay.
It's Indicator, so.
Okay.
So I could be out of the building by 5:30. I think I can make it.
Okay. But is there any other, besides your child care pickup issue, I think everyone understands.
Well,
Is there another one?
no, I'm a teacher, and the kids start on Thursday. And
They start this Thursday? Okay, so you are a teacher in the City of Decatur schools. Okay. What kind of arrangements do they make when a teacher or other staff member is on jury duty?
they would have subs.
They would come in? Okay. Aside from the concern you have for your students wanting the continuity of having you there from the beginning, is there any other work situation that is... All right, I think you also raised your hand that you recognized one of the other jurors or one of the participants?
Yeah.
Okay, what...
He does puppetry stuff with my son at his aftercare.
He does what?
Puppetry.
Oh, okay. All right. Do you have any conflict with this person? Okay. Any particularly strong relationship with this person that would sway you if you were both on the jury? Okay. All right. You have heard about this case. All right. Do you have any opinion about the case?
Not a strong opinion.
Tell me a weak opinion. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with having heard about the case and having an opinion about the case. So we're just trying to figure out what that might be.
I understand the dynamics of having an outside of marriage affair and how that can sway one's judgment.
Did you have you followed this case particularly closely? Would you say you followed it at all?
Followed it? No. I mean, it's kind of hard to not see stuff going on.
And you said you had no opinion when you filled out the questionnaire on Friday. Is that still your position? You have no opinion on it?
No.
Okay. You did see some press over the weekend. You let us know. Okay. Is there anything about what you saw that makes you now have an opinion where you otherwise did not?
No.
Okay. Not for or against either side, guilt or innocence of, okay. All right. And you understand, of course, that anything you would have read or seen, that's not evidence.
Correct.
Okay. And that the jurors in this case would need to decide the case just based on what they hear in court. Do you think you have any trouble doing that if you were a juror in this case? Okay. You question a little bit about the criminal justice system, just the fairness in general. What's your opinion about that?
It depends on how much money you have to how little time you have to serve or whether you get served correctly or not.
Okay. Is that based on any experience that you've had or someone you know had? Okay.
Just watching how things can work.
Any particular case leave an impression on you, or that's just your general impression?
General.
Okay. Again, having opinions is one thing, but being a juror in a criminal case, do you feel you'd be able to set any of those opinions you might have as a casual observer when you were an actual participant in a case if you were on the jury?
Would I be able to set them aside?
Would you be able to set them aside? Okay. You think you'd have any trouble doing that? Okay. You recognize Mr. Morgan as someone who had perhaps spoken at your school. Do you have any other relationship with Mr. Morgan other than... was it one time, several times, just occasionally?
3 or 4 years or something.
Okay. Do you have, he's quite charming, do you have an impression of him that would impact you one way or the other if you were a juror on this case? You think you'd be able to leave aside whatever interaction you might have had with him and just focus on the guilt or innocence of the defendant, as a jury would be charged to do? Okay. Your father was in the National Guard for 20 years? All right. Is he retired now? Where is he a sheriff's deputy or a volunteer sheriff's deputy?
He was, and he's not now. He was in Tennessee.
In Tennessee. Okay. All right. And your personal situation, that you let us know about. Is there, I don't need details, but is there anything about that situation that would be conflicting or weighing on you as you were a juror in this case? Possibly? Okay. Can you be more specific about that or tell me how you think it might weigh on you?
Just going through similar
Mm-hmm.
things.
All right. Knowing that you have got an emotional, that's my word, not yours, but is that an accurate? Okay. Personal situation, do you think you could leave that aside and just judge the issues in the case based on the evidence of the case?
I hope so. I'm
Okay.
not 100% sure. I cannot say
Okay.
completely.
Okay. Is there anything that makes you believe that you couldn't? Anything in particular makes you believe that you couldn't?
No, it's, fresh, so.
Okay. All right. One moment, please.
You may.
Thank you, Juror 19. I asked you about Mr. Morgan, but I did not ask you about Mr. Petrie.
Yeah, I don't know if that's, I know it.
Okay. Did you teach or had you ever taught his child?
Yeah.
Okay. Does he? Okay. So do you recognize the name? Do you recognize his?
Recognize,
That's it. Okay. Anything about that situation that you think would? Okay. When I asked you a little bit about what you'd heard about the case, and you kind of brought it back to being a teacher, and you said you couldn't believe that the situation was took place in front of children or around children. What did you mean by that?
That the original
Mm-hmm.
act happened near children, and I that was fresh because my children were in daycare at that time. So
Okay.
I was shocked by that.
Okay. Were you expressing shock at the tragedy of it, or okay? When you said you can't believe it, does that mean that you'd formed an opinion that it couldn't have happened because it happened around children, or were you just expressing concern about the?
Right.
Okay, I understand. Okay. Anything I didn't ask you about that you think we should know, or anything that would weigh on you as a juror?
I think you covered it.
Thanks.
Mr. Clay?
Yes, ma'am, let me just make sure I understand. In your questionnaire, you had indicated that you knew something about the case, and your primary concern was that it had happened at a facility where children could have either been endangered or perhaps witnessed the event. Is that correct? If you could just speak up for the record, please.
Yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say that those concerns do not reflect one way or the other as to the specifics of any allegation being made, other than a generalized concern that someone would attempt to commit or commit such an act in close proximity to kids?
Can you rephrase that?
Okay. The fact that you have a concern that a homicide was committed near kids, does that cause you to have an opinion one way or the other as to whether or not Mrs. Sneiderman is guilty of the crimes that she is charged with in this indictment?
In this indictment, no.
Okay. That was one heck of a pregnant pause.
I know, because
And so I am guessing that you were thinking it over.
Right.
Could you tell us what you were thinking?
Sure. I was trying to take the analytical part of it and out and take the emotional piece away. So analytically, I understand that as of right now, there is no guilt or innocence, or there is innocence and no guilt at this point. So I can't rationally say that she had anything to do with that, rationally.
Okay. Analytically, you can sit here and concede that she is entitled to the presumption of innocence, And as she sits here, is cloaked with that presumption, correct?
Correct.
Can you do so that emotionally?
That's what the pause was for.
Okay.
Um,
Do you emotionally, on some emotional level, believe that she is guilty or might be guilty of the crime she is charged with?
yes,
Okay. Do you think those emotional feelings might affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror?
I would hope not. I can't answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you believe that it is a possibility
Yes.
that your emotions could intrude upon your analytical sense and affect your ability to decide this case based fairly on the facts?
It's possible, yes.
Okay. All right. I don't have anything else. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Does the state have any follow-up?
No, sir.
You may follow the instruction of the clerk. What's the state's position?
This is a qualified jury, Your Honor.
Defense?
We would move to excuse her for cause based on her last answer, Your Honor. She said she has emotional beliefs that might affect her ability to decide this case fair and impartially. She could not state with any degree of certainty whether or not those emotions might intrude upon her ability to evaluate this case strictly on the evidence, and she essentially said her emotions believe that Andrea Sneiderman is guilty of something.
Response?
I don't believe that that was a fair characterization of what this juror said, but I would.
Just hold for a second, go ahead.
But certainly everyone's aware that the standard of excusing a juror for cause is not because she has a emotional, may or may not have an emotional reaction to the facts of the case, or because that she hopes that she wouldn't and is concerned about her ability to set anything aside. The legal standard for excusing a juror for cause is someone who had a fixed and definite opinion such that she could not set it aside and serve as a juror on this case. And this juror said, by my count, at least 4 times that she had actually no opinion about the case, and that whatever she did know or had learned about the case, she would be able to set aside. Right now, she said there is innocence and no guilt. That's what she articulated, and I believe the record reflects that this juror is a qualified juror.
Anything else, Mr. Clegg?
Yeah, all I would note is the court would take note of the fact that when I asked her a question about her ability to sit as a fair and impartial juror, there was a lengthy pause that went on for at least 20 to 30 seconds before she was able to provide an answer. And then when I asked her to elaborate, she did indicate that the reason for the pause was that there was a part of her that believed that Andrea Sneiderman was guilty and would affect her ability to decide this case fairly and impartially.
I'm going to overrule the objection. She's qualified based on her responses, based on all the questions in totality. Bring in the next one. She's qualified. 19's qualified. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Juror 21?
I don't have that you raised your card or your number at any time this morning. Is that right? You didn't raise your number at any time this morning to any of the questions? Okay, just wanted to make sure I got that. And you were born in Haiti?
Yes.
But you don't have any language problem or any difficulty understanding what's going on today? Okay. I'm sorry?
Some would.
Some? You have?
Yeah, I can understand.
Okay. When you didn't raise your hand this morning, was it because you weren't sure what any of the questions were? No? Okay. All right. And you understood the judge's instructions and
Yeah, sometimes you do faster than
okay. I'll try to slow down. Thank you. All right.
Number 21, what is your primary language? Or your first language? Is it French?
French Creole.
French Creole. And how long have you been in the United States?
Since 97.
And you work as a nurse, is that correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. On the questionnaire, the question was whether the nature of this case or anything about this case might affect your ability to be fair if you were a juror. And you answered yes. What is it about this kind of case or the nature of this case that makes you worried about that?
something just happened now, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the guy name, the one just passed on the Florida, the little boy.
Okay, Trevion Martin?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Okay. And what, did you follow that case pretty closely?
Well, I see his head, like his head, he cannot be my son tomorrow.
Did you disagree with what happened there, with the verdict in that case? Or let me put it a different way. Did you identify for your sons with the victim in that case?
Lawyers approach, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Clay,
Yes, sir.
any questions?
Jonathan.
Oh, sir, Mr. Petrie?
No, sir, no questions. No, sir. All for Mr. Clay.
Thank you. State.
Your Honor, I just note for the record that this juror seemed to have a difficult time understanding and responding in English, and after consultation with the defense, we've agreed to excuse her by agreement.
Mr. Petrie?
Your Honor, we agree in both her oral responses here and in some of her written responses, there seems to be a language problem, so we do join in that motion.
You should be released for cause. Should be 22 next. You can stand right there, sir. Thank you. Ms. Hill.
Okay, if I could just follow up with you with a few questions. I think you told us that you could potentially have a conflict if you get selected to serve as a juror in this case.
Yes.
Would you elaborate a bit more for us?
I already have travel plans to the country on the 11th.
Leave the country on the 11th. Where are you going?
Jamaica.
For a vacation or? How long were you scheduled to be out of the country?
7 days. I'll be there gone through the 17th.
You already have tickets in hand? Non-refundable? I'm sorry. Okay. Let's see, I don't believe I have any more questions. Thank you.
Mr. Clay?
Very briefly, sir, I apologize. I had a little difficulty hearing you. I know you have a family vacation sometime in August. When exactly is it?
The 11th and 17th.
11th through the
17th.
17th, and where are you going again?
Jamaica.
Jamaica, okay. All right, that's fine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Just follow the instructions of the clerk. Thank you, sir. State's position.
Judge, I believe by agreement, because of his travel arrangements and prepaid tickets, we would agree to have him excused for cause.
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right, I will accept that agreement.
Let's see.
Should be 23 next. Sure, come up, Lawrence, please. You may proceed. Miss, who's, what is your, I believe your,
Yes, Judge.
is it Miss Hill?
Yes, Your Honor, and by agreement, we don't have any questions.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. You may go back to the jury. Number 24, please.
John, may we hold just 1 second on number 24 so that the
Yeah,
state
yeah,
may
you can.
inquire.
You can.
I was just asking Ms. Hill to look at it. How much it is.
Your Honor, just for the record, on juror number 23, who was just excused by agreement, we agreed to do that based on the responses in his questionnaire. They appeared to be pretty extreme, in addition to the fact that he actually had prepaid travel arrangements as well. But
There was most on the response.
But it was primarily because of his responses on the questionnaire. Yes, Your Honor.
So noted.
And that's just for the record.
I'll read the questionnaires also. 24 is coming in next. Number 24? Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Hill.
Thank you, Judge. Just need to follow up with a few questions for you. I think you told us this morning that you have seen, actually, you've seen some press coverage since filling out your questionnaire. Is that correct?
I since figured out, well, yeah, and also too,
Well, I guess before
before, right,
and after?
in passing, yes.
Okay. And anything about what you have seen that causes you to form an opinion one way or another about the defendant's innocence or guilt?
I already had an opinion before, so nothing that I've seen over the past weekend is going to determine anything else for my decision one way or another. I'm already locked in.
You're locked in and fixed about your opinion. And if you were selected to sit as a juror, is it fair to say that there's nothing either side could present to you that would change your opinion?
Honestly, I couldn't be impartial.
You cannot be. And it's fine. I'm just trying to get a real fair assessment from you.
I've been following it, and I just don't think I can be impartial because I know this is her life online, and I want to be impartial. It would be every opportunity that she has to get a fair deal, but me personally, I can't make that decision.
Okay. All right. So, and what you're saying basically is you understand that the defendant is entitled to a fair trial.
Yes.
And if you had to have a person with the opinion that you already have sit as a juror on your case, you would not be comfortable with that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Okay. And that wouldn't depend on, I mean, that wouldn't change depending on anything you heard throughout the trial. Okay. Thank you.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Just follow the instruction of the clerk. Same position.
Yes, Your Honor. I state moved to have juror 24 excused based on his answers in the questionnaire as well as here in court today. He said he could not be a fair and impartial juror if selected.
We join that motion.
All right, I'll grant that motion. 24 be released to call. 25 is next. Whose witness is this? If you can remain standing. Ms. Hill, if you could come on up, please. Propound a question if you have any.
Yes, sir. Okay, juror 25, I'd like to ask you about a couple of the answers you gave this morning. And I think you told us that if you were selected to sit as a juror on this case, you could have a potential scheduling conflict.
Yes,
Would you tell us about that, please?
it might, as far as my work,
Okay. What type of work do you do?
I'm a manager of an installation company.
And are you salaried or hourly?
Salary.
So if you are selected to sit as a juror, do you know what your company's policy is regarding jury service?
No, not right now. That's one of the reasons I have to check and see.
Okay. Other than that potential work conflict, any other scheduling conflicts?
No.
All right. I think you also told us that since you have filled out the questionnaire on Friday, you've seen continuing press coverage regarding this case?
I heard press coverage
Okay.
on the radio this morning.
All right. What'd you hear?
About the trial and that jury selection was starting, and they gave a little bit about the case itself when it was back in 2002.
Okay. Anything about what you heard this morning that caused you to form any opinions one way or another?
No.
Okay. And I think you indicated in your questionnaire that prior to hearing the coverage this morning, you really didn't remember much about this case.
No.
Okay. And if you were selected to sit as a juror on this case, you would have to base all of your evidence solely on what you hear in court today. Are you comfortable doing that?
Yes.
Not today, but throughout the
Yes.
course of the trial?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, and I want to just go back briefly to your employment. You're an office manager,
Yes.
and you've been working there for 11 years?
Yes.
All right. So do you normally take vacation?
No.
No?
We take days off during the year, basically.
Mm-hmm. Is this the first time you've ever been called for jury service?
No, I've been called 2 other times.
Did you actually get selected to serve?
No.
Okay. At that time, did you inquire about the policy regarding
No.
pay?
No, it was just for 1 day, and that was it. I was only here a day.
Okay. The other thing you indicated in your questionnaire is that either you or someone who is close to you has gone through a divorce.
Yes,
And do you mind sharing with us who the person is?
I've been through a divorce.
Okay, how long ago?
Maybe, it might have been 10 or 12 years ago.
Okay. Throughout the time of your divorce, either just leading up to it or during the divorce itself, was there anything particularly messy or
No,
nothing? Okay.
nothing.
All right.
Question?
Yes, Judge. I don't believe I have any more. Just one,
All right, thank you.
1 second.
Mr. Gregg?
You have, from what appears on the questionnaire, an interesting educational background, ma'am. You have you said you had a BS degree, and is that in business management or was it in nursing?
Business management, LPN in nursing.
Okay. Have you worked as a nurse in the past?
Yes,
How often or how long ago has it been since you worked as a nurse?
it has been maybe 20 years now.
Okay. Do you still have your LPN license?
No, I just got them this year.
Okay. Okay. Now, you supervise 10 different people in your job, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And do you have authority to both hire and fire individuals?
yes,
And have you in fact done both?
yes,
Okay. Is that in your current position?
yes.
How long exactly have you been in your current position? 11 years, is that about right?
I've been employed there 11 years, but I've been an office manager over the whole, maybe the past 6 years.
Okay. How large an organization is it that you work for?
Right now, it's very small due to the economy, but I was managing up to 75 men at one time. Right now, we're in the I have maybe 10, and then also, I manage, do contractors.
Okay. You are unfamiliar with the office policy as to whether you get paid if you are on jury duty, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. As office manager, do you have any input into setting that policy?
No, our policies come from our Florida group.
Okay. And so at this point, you have no idea if you get on this jury whether you will get paid or not?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you have some concern if you were to be selected to sit on this jury that it might affect your flow of income?
Yes, it will.
Would that affect your ability to focus on the evidence that was presented in this courtroom?
No,
Okay. So you could set that aside and listen to the evidence and decide this case fairly without, in the back of your mind, having to worry about the prospect of having your pay cut off.
that is correct.
Good enough, ma'am. Your former husband, I guess, I think was a victim of a robbery, is that correct?
That is correct.
How long ago was that, ma'am?
Gosh, I don't know, 30-some years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say a robbery, was it a face-to-face confrontation between himself and another person?
He robbed a store.
Okay, so he was the one doing the robbing as opposed
That is correct.
to the individual who was the victim, okay? Were you married at that time?
No.
Okay. Would you have had any reason to attend any sort of court proceeding relative to the charges that were brought against him?
No.
Okay. Did he get a prison sentence as a result?
Yes, he did.
Have you had contact with him since?
No, he's now deceased, but after he was out of the penitentiary, yes, I had.
Okay. Would any of that affect your ability to sit as a fair and impartial juror in this particular case?
No.
And other than what you heard this weekend, I guess, was it today?
It was today on the news.
Okay. Was it WSB or was it a different station?
It was the news station. I don't know.
Okay. Scott Slade, was he on the radio by any chance? Do you know that name?
I don't know.
Fair enough, man. But good enough. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Please follow the instructions of the clerk. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Morgan.
Just for the benefit of his older lawyers, we should break time.
All right, I understand. What's the state's position?
State release juror 25 is qualified, Judge.
She certainly is.
All right, she's qualified. Let's go ahead and since you made the inquiry. April, Deputy Garrett, if you could tell the whole. Lawyers, let's take 5 minutes, Deputy Garrett.
All rise.
Ms. Carpenter, would you make a note of the oldest lawyer in the break right now?
Let me put that on the record.
Thank you. Do you just want to write consented to or anything?
And an identical one to be filed in this case.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm not sure that it is.
Yeah, it is.
Just file a copy of that and I'm just thinking in case I
Whatever she needs.
someone who looks for it.
Oh, that's what happened.
Good afternoon, you may be seated. Number 26. Oh, you can put your purse, your things in the chair. Make yourself comfortable. No, you have to stand now. Go right ahead, Mr. James.
Yes, sir. Ma'am, I see that you were a juror on a murder case before? Okay. What county was that in? Clayton County? And how long ago was that?
10, 15 years ago.
Now, without telling me what the verdict was, were you all able to reach a verdict?
Yes.
Okay. I also see that you have been exposed to some media coverage about this case, and specifically I want to ask you about your responses, or your response rather, on question 52. You have co-workers and family discussions.
We briefly talked about what we saw on television and what we heard.
Okay, can you fill us in on what you and your family and your co-workers discussed?
Just basically, I guess the part about the daycare and going to the daycare and shooting and just some of the things that we heard on television.
Okay. Did you ever express an opinion about the guilt or the innocence of any of the players in the case, Hemi Newman or Mrs. Sneiderman?
No, because I wasn't really into it that well.
Okay. Is there anything about what you've heard in the media that would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Clegg, Morgan.
Mr. Morgan,
Mr. Morgan.
Juror number 26 is Reverend Black, Celia, preacher. And based on you have no opinion one way or the other about this case?
No. I've been watching news up until the time of court.
And I believe you also said you got some of it from the internet?
Yeah, internet, read a couple of sites on the internet, but I haven't made a decision of guilty or innocent.
And the sites you looked at on the internet, were those news sites, or how did you go about, and what type of news sites on the internet did you look at?
Well, when you go to Google, they have like highlighted stuff, and you just click on whatever is highlighted at the time of that day, whatever's on that day.
Well, you may have answered the question. Were you specifically looking for information about this case, or just any news in general, and this case popped up?
Exactly.
So this case was not specifically on your mind when you were searching the web?
Right.
Okay.
It's just something that popped up when
And your co-workers that you said in the jury questionnaire that you discussed this case with, y'all never formulated an opinion one way or the other, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you, Judge.
You can follow the instructions of the clerk. Thank you very much.
No objection.
No objection.
All right, qualified. Number 26. '27 should be next. You may proceed, yes, sir. No, proceed, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, number 27.
I want to, during number 27, ask you about the media coverage that you've seen in this case. Specifically, in question number 54, you responded that the defendant was apparently emotionally and perhaps romantically connected to Mrs. Sneiderman. Can you tell us how you came to that conclusion?
I don't know any real details about their actual connection, which is why I think I indicated in another answer to another question, I didn't quite understand the connection.
Okay.
But that there was at least I believe, an inference in the media that there may have been some connection between Ms. Sneiderman and the gentleman.
So it's fair to say you inferred that from the media coverage that you saw or listened to.
I inferred there was a sense of that, yes.
Okay.
But I didn't pursue it and read about it particularly. Wasn't at that time wasn't something I read a great deal of, or went on my way to listen to say news coverage of.
Okay. Do you know the defendant? Do you know the defense put forth by Hemi Newman at his trial? You says, no, he did seem somewhat pathetic.
That was a very general inference I got from the news coverage.
Okay.
I didn't quite, like I said, I didn't understand. There wasn't anything that was clear to me about it.
Okay. When you say he seemed somewhat pathetic, can you explain to us what you mean by that?
It seemed that there was it seemed like perhaps a ill-fated attempt to accomplish something that didn't seem to work out very well at all.
Okay, let me be more direct. When you say an ill-fated attempt to accomplish something that did not work at all,
well, it didn't seem to be something that was. I didn't quite understand what the purpose of it was.
Did you question or doubt the validity of the defense put forward in that particular case?
I don't really know what his defense was.
Okay. On question number 51, you responded, it says, do you have any opinions about this case? And your response was, I don't understand the man's attraction for Mrs. Sneiderman. Can you explain that?
I think it had to do with that the newspaper photographs seemed to not were less flattering than her actual appearance in person.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if it was the nature of the photographs or if it was intentional or not.
Harold Edwards.
I know Harold Edwards. I have no idea whether it's the same Harold Edwards.
Do you know how Mr. Edwards is employed or where he's employed?
I haven't seen him in years, and I have no idea where he's employed.
Okay. If this were the same Harold Edwards that you know or that you have not seen in years, would that in fact affect your ability to be impartial? Would you give his testimony more or less weight because you know this individual?
I know him to be, in my experience, he was a very upstanding man, so I would have no qualms about his testimony.
Okay, let me ask the question again. Would you give
I
his?
would not be unduly biased towards it, but I would definitely not unduly question it.
Okay. I also see that you are that you have an affiliation with the Southern Poverty Law Center. Member?
Yeah.
Okay. What is the extent of your involvement other than just being a member with the Southern Poverty Law Center?
A member at the lowest level of subscription.
Okay.
For maybe the last 5 years.
All right. And someone close to you or either yourself has experienced divorce as well, is that correct?
Yes, I'm 60. A lot of the women I date or have dated have been divorced.
Yeah,
Some time in their lives.
I understand.
And I've gone through, friends going through the divorces.
Is there any,
This building,
let's talk about your friends going through divorces. Are there anything about those divorces that's been shared with you that was particularly contentious? Any of those divorces got ugly?
one of them took a whole week in Judge Hunter's courtroom,
Okay.
somewhere in this building.
All right. Is there any reason you can?
Lost the custody of him.
Yes, sir.
One day.
Is there any reason you can think of that you could not be a fair and impartial juror in this
No.
case? Thank you.
Mr. Petrie?
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, looks like you perform several functions for Just People, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. My involvement with Just People has been with, I think there's a campus in Lilburn.
Yes.
Do you go to different campuses, or are you primary, I think there's a couple in Gwinnett County all over?
Yes, they have two housing facilities, one in Gwinnett County, in Lilburn, one in Fulton County. And I pick up people from the facility in Gwinnett County and drive them to their day program, and then possibly drive people to outings and activities from there.
Okay.
And then return them home, in addition to picking up people in, say, Gwinnett and Fulton counties.
Okay, so you do go occasionally to the Lilburn campus then?
5 days a week.
Okay, then let me ask you this. I represented a gentleman from there who was charged with an on-campus sexual assault about 2 years ago. There were a number of witnesses from the Just People outfit. Were you involved in that case at all?
I started working 3 months ago. And
Okay.
and that's the first I ever heard of anything like this.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, your second job, you are an English as a second language instructor in the evenings, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Your conflict with work then would be with your job at Just People during the daytime.
Yes.
And you indicated that it would be, I think the words you used would be difficult for them, it would be difficult for my employer to cover for me for several weeks. Can you let us know, assuming, I don't want to say worst case scenario, but assuming you were a juror in this case for the next several weeks,
Yes.
could arrangements be made, although difficult, or would the program suffer? Your best estimate as to what the result would be?
It would be, it would stretch the other employees somewhat in terms of, say, driving the van or driving the bus and covering activities during that time. And to my understanding, I wouldn't necessarily get paid by them during this time either.
Okay, so there would be a financial hardship for you?
That would be that, yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, bear with me just 1 second. You indicated that a recent case from Florida, the Zimmerman case, causes you some concern, but you understand, quote, how the system works, you understand how the verdict was rendered. Is there anything about your, I guess, frustration as to how the system works sometime that would affect your ability to give Mrs. Sneiderman a fair trial and the state a fair trial in this case?
No.
Okay. You indicated that your roommate's son has had, I think your language was, very mixed experiences with law enforcement. Would that experience of someone that you are somewhat close to, would that have any bearing on your ability, again, to be fair and impartial in this case, sir?
No.
Okay. And your knowledge of this case from the press, you know some of the allegations, you've seen some of the reports on it, but in a very general way, is that correct?
A very general.
Okay. Based upon what you have seen about this case, and I think there've been looks like you get local news, newspaper, radio, 90.1 as well. Anything that you have heard recently that you think would affect your ability to be fair in this case, sir?
No.
Okay. Now, you indicated that you probably have met Mr. Morgan at a social function before.
Yes.
Any reason to think that that would have any effect on your ability to be fair?
No.
And you believe that you have seen Judge Adams in the news, anything that you've seen about Judge Adams in the news would affect your ability to be fair?
No.
Okay. Bear with me, please, Your Honor, just 1 second.
You may.
And you generally respect both prosecutors and defense attorneys?
I've known both.
Okay,
And AGs.
okay,
Or deputy AGs, yes.
okay. I thank you very much, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, following the instruction of the clerk, please. Thank you. State's position?
No objection.
Defense?
Please qualify, Your Honor. Sorry. Please qualify.
Thank you. Qualified, number 2728 should be next. You may proceed, Mr. James.
Juror number 28,
So you can remain standing, sir. I'll just tell him to proceed.
I understand that what you know about the case is, quote, Newman is doing life. Is that correct? All right. How did you come to that conclusion? Did you hear about it? Okay. Other than the fact that Newman is doing life, have you heard anything else about the case?
No.
Okay. I also see that there is someone that's a friend or a family member or that you know that has a DUI conviction as well.
DUI?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right. Who is that?
Sister-in-law, husband.
Okay. How close were you to that case?
Well, I just hear about it, you know. It's my sister-in-law, husband.
Okay.
So,
Was it here in DeKalb County?
yeah.
Okay.
No, in Gwinnett, in Gwinnett.
In Gwinnett? Do you feel like he was treated fair by the system out in Gwinnett County?
Well, you know, you do the crime, you do the time.
Yes, sir. Is there any reason whatsoever that you can think of that you cannot sit as a fair and impartial juror in this case?
Sure. Well, I ain't got nothing against anybody, you know what I mean? So, I'll be fair.
Yeah. You'll be fair. Thank you, sir.
Flag?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Yes, sir. In one of the questions, question number 39 on the questionnaire, the question reads as follows. Do you have any reason you believe you could not be true to your oath as a juror? And you answered yes. Does that mean you believe that you might not be able to honor your oath if you were picked as a juror?
Well, I will honor it.
I speak up, Tad, sir.
I will honor it.
He says, I will honor it.
You will honor it. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. So, did you misunderstand the question, perhaps? That's fine. I got your answer. Okay. You indicated that one of your friends was treated bad during the course of their criminal prosecution. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was in New York.
Okay. And do you think your feeling as to that would affect your ability to sit as a fair and impartial juror in this case at all?
No.
Okay. Did your knowledge that Mr. Newman was doing a life sentence come from information at the time of the trial of Mr. Newman, or did it come at a later date?
Yeah. At the time of after the trial
Okay.
finished.
Did you watch the trial or pay attention to Mr. Newman's trial while it was taking place?
No.
Okay. Did you know the name Andrea Sneiderman prior to getting a summons for jury service and reading the jury questionnaire?
No.
Okay. Is today or Friday the first time you had ever heard that name in your life? Okay. Do you have any opinion as you stand here today about whether she is guilty or not guilty of the crimes that she is charged with that you heard read this morning?
No.
Okay. Can you think of any reason, sir, why you could not be a fair and impartial juror?
Why I could not be a fair and impartial juror?
Speak up just a tad, I'm sorry.
Why I could not be a fair and impartial juror? I got nothing against, you know what I mean?
No reason you could not?
I could be a fair juror, yeah.
Okay. You are originally from Guyana, is that correct? And I apologize for my lack of geography. Is that in South America?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the native language in Guyana something other than English?
No, English.
Okay, so that English is your first language, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you. Number 20, just follow the clerk, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next position.
No objection.
No objection.
All right, qualified. Number 29 will be next. He's with you. You may, excuse me, she's with you. You may finish, Danny.
Ma'am, let me ask you about your trip plans coming up. If you could, let's start with the first trip. When is it, and what are your plans?
The first trip is a trip with my mother. We're driving, so we can cancel it.
Okay. And what are those dates?
That's the 12th.
The 12th.
13th, 14th.
And what about the next trip?
And then the last weekend, I think it's the 28th of the month there. I've already bought a plane ticket.
That's August 28th?
Yes, the end of the month. It's the last weekend of the month. I think it's the 24th or something like that. I'm probably on that Saturday.
You have served on a jury before, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you said lawsuit, business dispute.
Yeah, it was sort of a, I didn't understand all of that. It's hard for me to remember. I didn't understand at the time, but something with that, the husband was suing that company and they were doing her back pay or something.
Were you all able to reach a verdict?
We did.
Okay. You also have some experience with divorce as well, is that correct?
My parents are divorced.
Your parents?
And one of my brothers.
All right,
And
let's-
I've been divorced.
Okay. Let's start with yourself. Was that a particularly contentious divorce, or?
No, I was in my early 20s right out of college. We got married. It wasn't working. We went to the court together.
Yeah.
Went to a movie after. It wasn't contentious.
How about your parents?
That was contentious.
Okay.
But, I mean, there was a dispute over alimony and child support.
How long ago was that?
Early 80s. I was in junior high school.
Okay. Is there any reason you can think of that you cannot sit as a fair and impartial juror in this case, ma'am?
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Juror 29, I believe you answered that you know someone else on the jury panel.
Don't know. They said, did you recognize? I saw a woman. We knew each other, looked familiar. We spoke, introduced ourselves, couldn't remember how we met or when. We just recognized each other.
I believe we may have questioned another juror from Turner. You don't recognize any
I
other?
did not see anybody recognized from work. No.
Okay, and what do you do for Turner, ma'am?
I work in an IT group and we support the financial software.
And the trip at the end of August, is that a personal trip or
That's a
business
personal
trip?
trip.
Okay. And do you recall whether or not the plane ticket is refundable or non-refundable?
I don't think it is. It was like a couple $100. I mean, I understand that that's not necessarily something to get out of.
And you mentioned in your questionnaire that you were shot at on the interstate. Can you elaborate on that, please?
That's from a long time, in 90 something, like early 90s. I just moved to Atlanta, I was on the interstate with a friend of mine. We got mad, somebody cut us off, and then we pulled up to him to try to yell at him, and he shot a gun at us, and I was like,
That was here in
"Okay,
Atlanta.
that's Atlanta, yeah,
Was that reported to the police?
I did."
Okay. And probably in an incident like that, unless you've got a very good description, they got away. Is that correct?
Well, we actually got the tag number, called the police immediately. They caught the guy, and he just said he wasn't in the car that day.
And there was no further investigation. Because of that, did that leave you with any impressions of the criminal justice system one way or the
I
other?
wasn't really pleased with that result.
Okay. Do you recall which police department investigated the case?
It happened near Jonesboro, so I think the trial took place in Jonesboro or South.
Okay. Clayton County was not DeKalb then.
Correct.
And you grew up as a child of an Army officer, correct?
Yes.
So you traveled around a lot.
Less because he was closer to retirement. I'm the youngest. So we traveled less. We lived places longer than my brothers did. So.
No further questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. If you could follow the instructions of the clerk, please. Thank you. State position.
Good.
All right, qualified. Thank you. 30 should be next. James, you may.
Sir, you indicated in response to being fair and impartial, and I'll read your response. I think she's guilty. Can
Just by reading the newspaper before Friday.
okay, before Friday, is there anything that's happened
No,
since Friday that's changed your mind?
no, sir.
As you stand here right now, do you still think that she's guilty, she being the defendant?
No, it was just my opinion.
Okay, is that still your opinion?
I think so.
Okay. Is that a fixed opinion, or could you listen to the judge's instruction when he tells you to listen to the facts and the evidence and
Yes.
keep an open mind and be impartial?
Yes,
Do you believe that you can do that?
yes, sir.
Are you sure you can do that? Can you set aside any personal opinions that you may have held before you came in this courtroom and judge this case based on the facts and evidence as they are presented to you?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Petrie?
Thank you. Sir, you had answered in response to question 54, which I'm sure you don't remember by number, but it says, did you see or hear anything about the State versus Hemi Newman? Then it goes on to say, if you said yes, did you see anything specific about Andrea Sneiderman in that trial? And you said yes. Then it went further. If yes, what did you see or hear? And there's something that's scratched out, and then you wrote lie in court.
Correct.
Okay. Do you believe that you saw her lie in court, or you just saw allegations that she lied in court? I'm a little confused as to that answer.
I'm just seeing it on the news.
Okay. But did you see her and form your own opinion, hey, she's lying, or you saw in the news that someone accused her of lying?
Just formed my own opinion.
Okay. So your opinion was that she was lying in that trial?
Correct.
Okay. And you indicated that the sources for that opinion were television, WSB, and from the newspaper.
Correct.
Okay. Then, rather succinctly and bluntly in question 59, based on what you have heard about the case or on the facts as set out above, is there anything about this case that might make it difficult for you to sit as a fair and impartial juror? You stated, I think she's guilty.
Correct.
Okay. Now, that is what you filled out on Friday. And you indicated to Mr. James that you believe you could set that aside and render a verdict based on the evidence. Is that correct, that you did tell him that?
Correct.
Now, sir, are you able to tell us here today that you are satisfied that your pre-trial opinions, which seem rather blunt, that Mrs. Sneiderman is guilty, that you can set those aside, forget about those opinions that you had beforehand, and base your determination solely on what evidence comes from this courtroom taken in light of the law that Judge Adams gives you? Can you guarantee us that, sir?
Yes.
Okay. You indicated, I think, that you're the only time conflict that you have, sir, begins on August the 24th in Newport, or do you need to be there earlier than the 24th?
Probably be there on the Friday.
And
23rd.
okay, the 24th is a Saturday?
Correct.
So you are good between now and the 23rd?
Yes.
If you're on this jury, the judge has given you what we believe is a good faith estimate from both sides as to how long the trial is going to take. If we get to the 23rd and for whatever reason this trial is not through, what does that do to your plans? Is it something, are you a member of the wedding party? Are you a guest, a relative? Is it going to be, basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is it the end of the world for you or for somebody else if you're not there?
I fly a lady, I work with senior citizens, and her family hires me to fly the lady to the wedding.
Okay, so you are an escort for someone, and it looks like you work at Lynbrook.
Correct.
Okay. Now, both your other job at McKinnon's, they haven't been on Cheshire Bridge for years. They're up on Maple Drive now?
Correct.
Okay. So both of your jobs are in Buckhead?
Right.
Okay. And if, in fact, you are on this jury, sir, would someone else be able to have the onerous task of going to Newport, Rhode Island in the summertime?
I probably could find some.
Okay. And what do you do at Lynbrook?
I lost my job in 2010, and I just worked for about 6 or 7 people on my own.
Okay, you do individual tasks, sort of I don't want to, a man Friday.
Correct.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Just follow the instructions of the clerk. Thank you. From the state.
No objection.
Defense.
Your Honor, we do object to this juror. He was rehabilitated by the state nominally, but we believe that was only after successive questioning by Mr. James. His unrehabilitated answers clearly state, quote, "What did you see or hear lying in court? I think she's guilty." I do not believe that jury, Your Honor, can offer Mrs. Sneiderman the fair and impartial judgment of a juror who has not prejudged this case, and we would move to excuse this juror for cause.
Hold. Mr. James.
Your Honor, I think the juror was very clear. I didn't press him. I asked him one time if he could listen to the court's instruction and follow it and be fair and impartial. And he didn't hesitate. He didn't equivocate. He said one time that he could. I went beyond that and asked him if he was sure. I believe twice or maybe perhaps even 3 times. And every time that I asked him, that I inquired whether or not he was sure, the juror responded, yes, in fact, he was sure. Subsequent to that, Mr. Petrie got up and engaged in the same line of questioning. And this juror was unshaken, unmoved, and indicated that unequivocally that he could follow the court's instruction and be a fair and impartial juror.
Speech, anything else for the record?
No, sir.
I'm just looking at Daniels that says, of course, a potential juror who is inclined toward either party is not to be disqualified if she or he will be able to set aside her or his opinion and decide the case based upon the evidence and the court's charge. And he responded he could. At this point in time, he's qualified. 30's qualified. Number 30 qualified. Bring the next one. Hello, you can stand right there. You can come over just a little bit more, Ms. Green.
Thank you.
Juror 31, you let us know that you might have a conflict or a hardship if you were selected for this jury. Can you tell me what that is?
Me being a disabled veteran, I do have appointments at the VA.
All right.
So they might conflict with whatever, day you might have.
Okay. Are you having any medical situation that is so immediate that you couldn't reschedule those appointments if you had to?
No.
Okay.
Well, do you have any appointments scheduled right now over the next 2 to 3 weeks?
Yes, I do.
When is the first one?
August the 16th or something.
What time?
That morning, I don't know exactly what time, I can't remember.
Is this an appointment that if you change the appointment, your life would be at risk?
No, it wouldn't.
All right, next question.
Thank you. Anything other than those, that one doctor appointment or potentially other doctor's appointments that you have a scheduling problem or a hardship if you were on the jury?
Nothing other than me working, but I worked that hard out.
Okay. That would be all right?
That would be okay.
Okay. Because you are a nurse with Kaiser?
Yes, with Kaiser Permanente.
Okay. And in what facility do you work?
I'm a traveling nurse. I work in all of their facilities.
Okay. When you travel, do you sometimes travel overnight?
No, we just strictly 9 to 6, 8 to 5:30, something like that.
Okay. Okay.
No weekends.
No weekends. All right.
No.
You let us know too that you had heard something about the case, but that was kind of in passing. Is that?
Yes, that's like passing through, getting dressed to go to work, something like that.
News on.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Maybe heard something like that.
All right. Do you have any opinions about the case? Do you feel like you know enough to have an opinion about the case?
No.
Okay. You let us know that you had heard something since Friday, since you had come to fill out the questionnaire.
I heard something this morning
Okay.
when I was getting dressed to come here. And that's basically that, they were trying to pick a jury. That was it.
Anything that you think might impact your ability to be fair and impartial if you were a juror on this case?
No.
You think of anything I didn't ask you about that might impact your ability to be fair and impartial?
No.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Clegg?
Yes. Yes, ma'am. You have training as both a nurse and a mortician, is that correct?
Mortician and drill sergeant when I was in the military.
Okay. And how long were you in the military for?
13 years.
Okay. And what branch of the military were you in?
Army.
Okay. And were you a nurse in the Army or a mortician?
No, I was studying to be a mortician in the Army.
Okay. In your current job, I guess you go from one location to the other, taking vital signs for folks who are attempting to get insured by Kaiser Permanente. Is that correct?
They are already insured by Kaiser. And what I do is I assist the doctors, the PAs, and some of the main nurses, our head nurses. I work in different facilities like cardiology, oncology, whatever. Whoever's out of work that day, that's who I fill in for. So I can do a number of things.
So you are doing a variety of things depending on who is out on that particular day.
Yes.
You are somewhat of a jack of all trades, at least in the nursing field, I guess.
Jane of all training, yes.
Okay. Yes, well said, ma'am, okay. You are very active in a number of community groups, if I understand correctly. First off, the VFW Delta Sigma Theta. What is that exactly?
That's a sorority. When you go to college, normally we do different sororities, Alpha Kappa Alpha, AKA.
Okay. And then it says here, if I'm reading this correctly, Junior Achievement Day at various schools.
Yes.
What exactly do you do on those occasions?
We go out and we try to teach young children about the business aspects. Kaiser gives us that day to go to whatever school they choose. And I might go in and I might talk about some parts of education. Then again, I might talk about business, how to do a checkbook, just numerous of things that they, should know in life growing up.
When you are giving those presentations, how old are the kids you are talking to?
Sometimes we deal with 8th graders, sixth graders, you know, nobody other than 10th at the most. 10th.
Okay. And for the most part, are you advising them or making them aware of what goes on in a real business and encouraging them to become entrepreneurs?
I am.
Okay. Okay. Do you do that how often again? I'm sorry. You may have said. I apologize.
I don't do it often, but it's just that whenever they have a career day coming up, we might volunteer to do it.
Okay. You had indicated that you are a Baptist and on Sundays you attend religious services on Sundays times 3. Do you go to actually 3 different religious services on Sundays?
Now, that might be 3 times a month.
Oh, okay. I was having a hard time understanding that myself, ma'am. So you're a patient individual if you can do that. Okay. All right. I'm relieved to hear you say that. Okay. And you have brief knowledge of the case. Pretty much, you'd be passing by the TV screen and you'd see some reference to it.
Yes.
Other than that, you heard something about it, I guess, in either the paper or the radio this morning?
This morning, yes, the
Yep.
TV, when I was passing
And
by getting dressed.
did you make any reference to the nature of the charges pending or anything of that sort?
I wasn't paying any attention to that. Only I heard that there was a jury being, and I just said, oh, okay.
And you thought, gosh, that's probably the one I'm going to.
Yeah, don't let me listen at that no more.
Okay.
Let me keep going.
Okay. Other than that, is it fair to say that you have virtually no knowledge of this particular case?
It is.
Okay. While you were in the military, did you ever have occasion to serve in any sort of court proceeding, such as a court-martial?
No, I did not.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Sure do appreciate it.
Thank you. Follow the instructions of the clerk.
All right.
State,
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
qualified, number 31. Number 32 should be next. You may question.
Juror 32? You let us know that you thought you had formed an opinion about this case. You raised your card this morning. Can you tell me what your opinion is?
Well, based on that, from what I saw in the news, I think she was guilty.
Okay. And are you a little anxious talking about it? No?
No.
Okay. What have you seen the news recently and you're basing your opinion on that, or have you followed the case?
No, it was basically when it first came out.
When it first came out? Okay. All right. Would you say that you had followed the case? Have you followed it since it came out?
No.
No? Okay. Your opinion, you understand that, what you see in the news is not evidence, or what you might see on TV isn't evidence. The jurors in this case would have to decide the case just based on what they hear in the courtroom. Do you think you'd be able to do that? Okay. You think you have any opinion that's so strong that you couldn't put it aside and just keep an open mind and base your opinion on what you hear in the courtroom?
No.
Okay. No, you don't have an opinion so strong that you couldn't do that? Okay. All right. You have got, do you have any other feelings or opinions about the case that you think we should be aware of?
No.
Oh. You let us know that there was someone, either you or someone else, had applied for a job in the Fulton County Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Okay, who was that?
Me.
That was you? Okay. And that was last year? Okay. And have you applied, or are you interested in applying for any other jobs in law enforcement?
No.
Okay. Was it a civilian position?
No.
It was a detention officer?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And you have got, you've got 2 kids at Drew Charter? Okay. When did they go back to school?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. All right. Anything, you live with your parents?
Yes.
Okay, so is there anything about your kid's situation that would be cause a hardship for your family if you were selected for a juror for a couple of weeks in this case?
I'm the sole provider of transportation.
The transportation?
Yes.
Okay. The judge has let the jurors know that court would run from 9 a.m. in the morning till just about 5 o'clock at night. So if that was your daily schedule, would you have any transportation problems or any problems with your family based on that? You being here at that time? They get out at 4? Okay. Could you make arrangements, or could you have a friend or maybe your parents or someone else make arrangements for the kids? Okay. If you're not there to pick them up at 4, what happens?
Late fees.
Late fees and stuff? Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I think there's some more.
Mr. Morgan, if you could just remain for the defense lawyer to ask questions. Mr. Morgan, she was leaving. Mr. Morgan?
Oh, I'm sorry, Judge.
No, it's fine. She's with me.
Juror number 32,
In the jury questionnaire, you said you had formed an opinion on this case early on, is that correct?
Yes.
Was that based on your own observations of the news, or was it based on discussions with others? What was it? Okay, not in discussions with other people. Do you get your news only from television, or do you get it from radio, the internet? What are your sources?
Internet, radio.
Okay. And did you hear information on this case on all 3?
2 of them, yes.
Okay, on 2 of them. Okay. Now, you said you formed an opinion early on.
Yes.
Okay. Was your opinion that Mrs. Sneiderman was guilty of all the charges that you heard she was charged with early on in this case?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay, so you'd already formed an opinion that she was guilty of murder then?
If she arranged for it, yes.
Okay. My question was, had you already formed an opinion based on the news accounts that our client was guilty of murder, and you understand she's not charged with that?
I understand that she's not charged with that.
Okay. Well, you had formed an opinion.
Yes.
Okay, that she's guilty.
Yes.
Okay. And that opinion has not changed.
I hadn't seen any other thing that would make me change it.
Okay, so you still believe she's guilty of murder?
Yes, until proven otherwise.
Okay, do you understand it's not the defendant's job to prove anything? It's the state's job to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
Okay. And yet you're stating that the defense would have to prove it's innocent before you could find a not guilty verdict.
I would have to see something different.
You would have to see something different from the defense because you've already formed an opinion on this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
No further questions.
You may follow the instruction of the clerk. Yes, ma'am.
Is yours acceptable to the state?
Mr. Morgan?
Your Honor, she has stated over and over again, she's already formed an opinion on this case, that the defense would have to prove it's innocent before she could render a different opinion. She's not qualified.
Ms. Cross?
Your Honor, I believe she is qualified. She said that whatever opinion she has, she's able to set aside. She understands that the evidence comes in the courtroom for this juror and not from anywhere else. I also don't think it's fair to judge her response or take her response at face value. She hasn't yet had the benefit of the court's instruction about the burden of proof and who's responsible for proving what. She hasn't yet had that, and to ask her questions based on the instruction or an understanding of an instruction she hasn't yet heard, I don't think disqualifies this juror. In fact, she is qualified, and we'd ask that she be kept in the pool.
All right, I'm gonna let her go for cause. Bring in the next juror.
Juror number 33. You raised your card this morning when the judge asked about scheduling conflicts or a hardship if you were to serve on this jury. What do you want to talk to us about?
I'm the sole provider for my son.
And your son's 5 months old?
Yes.
When you say you're the sole provider, what day-to-day responsibilities do you have?
He actually lives with me.
Okay. Does he go to daycare or any other
I have
care?
somebody watching while I work.
Okay, while you work?
Yeah.
Okay. If you were here instead of at work from 9 in the morning until 5 at night, is that something that would work? That's something that you could work out?
Possibly, I can't say for sure right now.
Okay, but you are saying that would you say you're the primary caregiver for that child? And you work at Home Depot, and you mentioned on your questionnaire that you've got concerns about not being paid while you were on?
I actually clarified that, and they do.
They do pay you? Okay, good. All right.
So if you're here, you will be getting paid, so you don't have to worry about not getting paid. And you do, and you can make arrangements for someone to care for your son, is that correct?
I don't know, I can try, is what I'm saying.
But I'm saying you work now, is that correct?
Yes.
And when you're working, someone cares for your son?
Yes, but it's a certain schedule that I work early in the morning. I don't get out too late in the evening. My problem is I have problems finding somebody to watch them later in the evening. I usually get off around
What do you
2
call
or 3.
late in the evening?
Like 4 or 5 is what I usually have a problem with, because I get off around 2 or 3.
2 or 3 in the afternoon?
Yes.
But if you, go ahead.
So if I was to be here around 4 or 5, it'd be a problem as far as finding somebody to watch.
But you have someone watching him today?
Yes.
Go ahead.
You raised your card when you were asked about knowing someone or being close to someone who had a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you tell me who that is to you?
My mother's grandmother is still alive, and she has dementia.
Okay. Do you do much caring for her, or do you see her very frequently?
I don't see her frequently.
Okay.
She's close to me.
Yeah. Other than that, do you have anybody close to you? Okay. Have you heard anything about this case?
Yes.
Okay. And do you have any opinions based on what you heard about the case? Anything you heard in the last couple days change your mind about that, or cause you to have an opinion one way or the other?
Yes.
Okay. What's that? Okay, you hesitate a little bit like you were thinking. Can you tell me what you're thinking?
I really don't know too much about the case,
Mm-hmm.
but from what I did hear, I don't really know how to word it. I don't know which way to persuade you.
Okay, well, tell me this. What did you hear?
What I did hear was more about what happened prior to this case, the other case.
Okay. All right, the other case, does the name Hemi Newman sound familiar to you? Okay. And you didn't indicate in the questionnaire that you recognize that name, but now do you have a little more information about? Okay. Knowing what you know now that you didn't know before, does that cause you to feel one way or the other about the defendant being guilty or not guilty?
Yes.
Okay. And how does that change your opinion about the defendant?
It doesn't necessarily change my opinion because I don't know the extent of this case.
Okay.
But I'm saying it could.
It could. Okay. And we're asking, so I appreciate you bringing it up. Do you feel like you have any opinions or you have any information that would make it difficult for you to be fair and impartial if you were to sit as a juror in this case? Okay. You have been the victim of a robbery
Yes.
that was not reported to the police?
No.
Okay. Can you tell me why you didn't report it to the police?
Personally, I felt like it would have been a waste of time.
Okay. Why would you think it might have been a waste of time?
Past situations that happened with people close to me and myself, when certain incidents were reported and it was just kind of shrugged off or laughed at.
Okay, you thought maybe they wouldn't take you seriously?
Right.
Or put any time or resources into it?
Right.
Okay. Those other experiences that you were talking about, was that here in DeKalb County?
No.
Okay. Where was that?
It was actually in another state.
In another state?
Yeah.
Okay. And was that where you were the victim of a robbery too?
No, that was here.
That was here in DeKalb. Okay, but based on what your impression of law enforcement in another community, that's what
Yes.
caused you. Okay, I understand. Do you have any opinions about law enforcement, just in general, good or bad? Have you got a friend who's employed at General Electric or GE?
Yes.
Okay, who is that person?
The sister of my child's mother.
Okay. Do you know that person's name?
AJ.
All right.
Last name
And the only reason I'm asking is because I expect evidence to be from many people who worked at GE. When you reviewed the questionnaire and it had all the list of witnesses, did you see that person's name? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Petrie, if you could remain, Mr. Petrie has a couple of questions.
Sir, earlier on, when the court asked for people to raise their hands, and we got just a few hands up, about people that could be impartial, you raised your hand. And my impression at that time was a lot of people didn't understand the question. You did understand it. You understood that the judge was asking you, can you be fair? Can you be impartial, that is not biased? And you raised your hand, correct? Okay. Since you filled out the questionnaire, you have realized certain things about this case that you didn't know earlier. But I understood you to say that even though you now know that this case is connected to an earlier case that you did know something about, you could still be fair in this case. Okay. Now, is there anything, well, I'm trying to figure out. So obviously what you knew about the other case sort of came back to you over the weekend. Do you think that there are other details or aspects of the previous case that are sort of there in the back of your mind too that might come forward and color your judgment as to Mrs. Sneiderman's guilt or innocence?
Possibly.
Okay.
Possibly. As of right now, I'm impartial with it.
Okay, right now you're impartial. The press that you have seen since Friday, can you tell us exactly what that was, as best you can recall?
Well, it was kind of flipping through the channels, and I stopped on a certain news station, and I saw that they were talking about picking a jury, and they kind of ran through what this was all about, and that's kind of it. They kind of ran through the previous case and this case a little bit, and how it's all
Okay.
tied together. But it was more or less talking about they're in the process of picking a jury.
And you understand, with all due respect to the members of the press, that what you hear or read about a case may be totally inaccurate as to what actually happened. And you understand that if you were selected as a juror, your job is going to be to say to yourself, okay, I got to forget what channel such and such a journalist said about this, and I got to look at the evidence, and I got to take the law from Judge Adams. You could do that. Now, let me ask you, sir, I'm a little confused about your child care situation. You normally get off 2 to 3, and you are the sole caretaker for your infant son from that time till bedtime?
Right.
Okay. You don't know yet, if I understood you correctly, that you can make arrangements for those 2 or 3 hours that are unaccounted for right now.
Exactly, and that's coming from past experience when I've tried to have somebody watching for that extra amount of time in the past.
Okay. Is there some way that that you could report back to the court as to whether or not you were successful in making those arrangements? In other words, obviously, you don't know you can do them right now. You don't know yes or no. What kind of inquiries would you have to make, and what kind of time frame would be involved in your being able to come back here and say, here's what I've learned. Yes, I can do it, or no, I can't do it.
No more than 48 hours.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This follows the instruction of the clerk. What state's position?
No objection to this, Chair.
Your Honor, I believe the juror is qualified. I would ask the court to allow this juror to just report back at the court's directed time on what progress he's made. I believe he would be excusable for cause of hardship if he's unable to make those arrangements. My gut feeling is he seems that he's willing in good faith to make that attempt. Otherwise, he's qualified.
All right, I'm gonna put him down as qualified. And I understand what you're asking, and he's qualified. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Juror 34, you've got some travel coming up in the month of August. Can you tell me about that?
I am going to Baltimore, Maryland for my job on, I think it's August the 11th or the 16th.
21st through the 26th? Okay. Have you already made your flight arrangements?
Yes.
Okay. And are those tickets refundable by any chance?
I think they all can be maybe credited, but I know that you have to pay several $100s to get them credited, and then you forfeit that amount.
Okay. All right. The business trip you're taking to Baltimore, and you are an interior designer?
Yes.
Okay. And your company has, are you required to go on that trip?
Yes, at this point, yes. I mean, it's not life or death or organ donation or anything like that, so yes, all those things don't apply.
Okay, but your trip to Las Vegas on the 21st?
That is just an optional trip that I have planned for.
Okay. All right. Any other conflicts or scheduling issues that you want to bring to our attention?
Not at the moment. I mean, as far as my job goes, I do travel, and from now, I'm just saying I'm not booking anything else. I can't go anywhere else until I find out what's going on with this.
Yeah.
But generally, something else would come up that I would go on another trip somewhere. Usually, it's 2 work trips a month.
2 work trips a month? And are those often overnight trips?
It's usually about 4 or 5 days.
Do you travel usually by yourself when you go, or does someone else from your company go with you?
I have other people that go with me. I'm the lead designer over a group of girls, depending on how many houses are going in.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be 1, could be 6.
Okay. You let us know that you had heard about this case
Yes.
in the past. Do you have any opinions about the case?
I honestly haven't kept up with enough to know. I mean, I knew about who, like the name and then hearing the name. I think anybody in Atlanta probably has. I mean, but I haven't really kept up with it enough to know the details.
But you do know where the event took place or where the murder took place?
Yes.
Okay.
I put in the sheet. My friend's child went there at the time.
At the time. Okay. Who is your friend?
Sam and Mike Fink. It's Asher Fink is their son.
Have you talked with them about the fact that this occurred at their son's preschool?
Recently, or like when it happened?
Both.
When it happened, I believe we had a party, maybe New Year's or something, and they just mentioned that that was at their school.
Okay.
I mean, and again, it was like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. I can't believe something like that would happen where a kid goes to school.
Okay. But that's information you learned several weeks or a month or 2 later at a social event?
Yes.
Okay. Anything you might have heard since that time that makes you think that you have an opinion one way or the other about the case?
No.
Okay. Do you feel for any reason you couldn't be a fair or impartial juror in a case?
No.
Your late husband had an issue that you let us know about.
Yes.
Okay. And you expressed some opinions about the criminal justice system in general. What are your opinions about that?
Well, as far as the stuff that he was dealing with the stuff before I met him, so I was kind of brought into all of that.
So you got his impression of it later.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I mean, like when he was on probation for, I think it was like 5 years or something.
Okay.
In which time, you can't get a speeding ticket, you can't look at something the wrong way, you can't do whatever, and it's like, to a degree, I feel like that's a little bit unfair.
Uh-huh.
I mean, just in general, it's like you can't get a parking ticket. I mean, that's not even doing anything wrong, really.
And that period of time that he was on probation and the restrictions and everything, is that what you mean when you said that people get stuck in the system?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And at the time of his death, he was still on probation. So.
He was? Okay. Is there anything about any of that that you think impacts the way you think about how you'd serve on a criminal jury?
At the moment, no.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know that would be an issue at any, on a certain thing, but, his situation was such that I walked into that in the middle of all of it going on.
Yeah.
And had to just deal with the fallout.
Okay. And you were also a witness at one time and actually testified in court.
Yes.
All right. And when did that incident take place?
I think that it was in maybe 98, 99. I'm not really exactly sure what year.
Okay.
I was working as an attendant at a gas station, and 2 people got in an altercation in the parking lot. And one of them, the guy tried to hit this lady with his car, and so it was felony assault, is what he was charged with. And since I was standing at the edge looking out, seeing it happen, I testified for, I don't even know which side, honestly.
Okay.
I just said, we just need you to say what you saw.
And did you do that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any Did you feel that was a good experience, a bad experience, a neutral experience?
I felt like it was enlightening.
Yeah.
The lawyer, the specific lawyer, and again, I'm not generalizing, he questioned me and then took specific things and twisted them into a way that wasn't what I said, which is also what I told the court whenever he said it. I said, I didn't say it like that, I said it like this.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's a person doing that, not
Yeah.
a system in general.
Okay.
So.
All right. All right, thank you so much.
Clerk.
Thank you, sir. In describing the incident at the BP that you observed, ma'am, you said you got an interesting look at the criminal justice system. Is that correct?
All right, maybe I should have said as a lawyer involved in the case.
Okay. And when you said you thought it was interesting to see, you said, how did you feel about the experience? You said it was interesting to see. Did you mean the actual offenses that was taking place or the subsequent intervention of the criminal justice system?
Kind of all of it. I've never been involved in anything really like that. And, going to be a witness and doing that kind of thing and being interviewed and, again, just seeing what happened the small amount of time that I was in court. It was interesting to me, and as much as,
Okay.
again, then having somebody say, oh, you said this, in a sentence I took out and. Well, that's not exactly how it was.
Okay.
So,
Did you actually testify?
yes.
Was there a jury?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Were you cross-examined?
Yes.
Did anyone attempt to cast doubt on the believability of what you said?
No.
Okay. How long did you actually testify for, if you recall?
2 minutes, 5 minutes,
Oh,
not long.
a very brief period of
Yes,
time.
yeah.
Was it a situation where you actually got up on the witness stand?
Yeah, I believe so, yes, from what I remember. So we were in the back and couldn't see people, and then we came out just for a minute and had a couple questions, and then we're done.
Do you know if it was an actual trial or was there a plea of guilty and a sentencing hearing?
No, I know that it wasn't a plea of guilty. He was fighting the charges.
Okay. Did it pique your interest or make you think maybe I want to become a lawyer?
No.
Not at all, huh? Okay. You answered that without any sort of hesitation whatsoever. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, your trip that you have planned in mid-August is a business trip. Is that correct, to Baltimore? Okay. And that is from a Monday through a Friday. Is that correct?
From Sunday to Friday.
Okay. And you work for...
Furniture brands.
Okay. And how large of an organization is that?
Our department is about 15 people. Our parent company is Furniture Brands International, which is the company that owns Lane, Thomasville, Roy Hill, Drexel Heritage, Henry Don, Hickory Chair, so thousands of people.
What is the specific purpose of the trip?
In my job, I go and decorate model homes for new subdivisions.
Mm-hmm.
And so the houses that are going in this week are 2 of my models that are going in. So I go and lead the project. I order everything from the ground up for the house, and then I go and basically tell everybody else what to do and where everything goes, and head off any problems that arise, and then meet with our division people.
Have most of the decisions already been made as to what is going into these model homes?
Yes.
Okay. So it is now just a matter of executing the plan which already exists.
Correct.
Is that a fair statement? And then you are